In today's video, we're sharing some incredible shark encounter stories. From heart-pounding escapes to miraculous survivals, these tales are sure to keep you on the edge of your seat. Let's dive right into the first story, featuring a wedding that took a tragic turn with a dark surprise no one anticipated. It was a picturesque morning on a private island resort in Bora Bora. The sun kissed the horizon, casting a golden hue across the tranquil waters. Guests had gathered from far and wide, dressed in their finest, to celebrate the union of two souls. The air was filled with laughter, joy, and the scent of exotic flowers. It was Laura's wedding day, a day she had dreamed about her entire life. Little did anyone know this day of celebration was about to take a dark turn, one that no one could have anticipated. Laura, the radiant bride-to-be, was a vision of beauty and grace. Her dress, an elegant blend of lace and silk, fluttered gently in the tropical breeze. She stood on the balcony of her private villa, overlooking the crystal-clear lagoon. Despite the excitement buzzing around her, Laura felt a moment of solitude calling her. She needed a brief escape to calm her pre-wedding jitters. "I'll be back soon," she whispered to herself, slipping out of her wedding dress and into a simple white swimsuit. The ocean was her sanctuary, a place where she found peace and clarity. She made her way down the sandy path, her heart pounding with anticipation for the day ahead. The water was inviting, shimmering under the morning sun. Laura waded in, feeling the cool embrace of the sea envelop her. She swam gracefully, her movements fluid and effortless, a stark contrast to the whirlwind of emotions inside her. As she ventured further from the shore, she felt a sense of freedom, the weight of the day's expectations lifting off her shoulders. But beneath the surface, hidden in the depths of the lagoon, lurked a danger she could not have foreseen. A shadow moved silently, unnoticed by the jubilant guests and the blissful bride. It was a predator, a silent hunter drawn to the motion above. Laura's strokes were rhythmic, her breathing steady. She closed her eyes, savoring the moment of solitude. But then something changed. A sudden shift in the water's temperature, a fleeting shadow crossing her vision. Her instincts kicked in, but it was too late. A violent jolt pulled her under. Panic surged through her as she struggled to comprehend what was happening. She fought desperately, her limbs thrashing in the water, but the grip was relentless. She broke the surface, gasping for air, and in that moment she saw it. A dorsal fin slicing through the water, a stark contrast to the serene surroundings. Fear gripped her heart as the realization dawned. She was not alone in the water. The guests on the beach remained oblivious, their laughter and conversation masking the terror unfolding just beyond the shore. Laura screamed a primal cry for help, but the distance and the festivities drowned her out. She kicked harder, adrenaline fueling her desperate bid for survival. The shark circled, its intentions clear. Laura's thoughts raced. This was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. She thought of her fiancé, waiting for her, unaware of the nightmare she was facing. She thought of her family, her friends, all gathered to celebrate her love. She couldn't let it end like this. But the ocean had a different plan. The shark struck again, its powerful jaws clamping down. Pain shot through her, a searing agony that took her breath away. She fought against the darkness closing in, her vision blurring as she struggled to stay afloat. On the shore, someone finally noticed. A shout, a pointing finger, and then chaos. People rushed to the water's edge, their joy turning to horror as they saw the struggle. Boats were launched, rescuers diving into the water. But the distance was too great. Time was slipping away. Laura's strength waned, her body growing numb. She felt herself being pulled under again, the world above fading from view. Her last thoughts were of love, of the life she was leaving behind. She had always believed in fairy tales, in happy endings. But this was real and it was happening now. The water turned red, a stark reminder of nature's unforgiving side. As the rescuers reached her, it was too late. The ocean had claimed her, a tragic end to what should have been a beautiful beginning. The guests stood in stunned silence, their tears mixing with the salty air. The celebration had turned into a scene of mourning, the island's beauty overshadowed by the darkness of the event. In the days that followed, The island resort would become a place of reflection, a reminder of the fragility of life and the unpredictability of fate. Laura's story would be told and retold, a cautionary tale of joy turned to sorrow in the blink of an eye. And so, on that fateful day, the island bore witness to both the heights of human happiness and the depths of despair. A wedding that was meant to unite two hearts forever was now a haunting memory, a reminder that life can change in an instant. And sometimes fairy tales don't have a happy ending. Now let's move on to story number 2. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that button so you won't miss any of the thrilling content ahead. This next tale involves a backpacker whose adventure took a heartbreaking turn. It was a perfect summer day in 2021 on the remote beaches of South Africa. The sun cast a golden hue over the crystal clear waters, painting a picture of tranquility and untouched beauty. This was the South African coastline, known for its rugged allure and hidden gems, a paradise for those seeking solitude and adventure. Among them was Paul, a young backpacker with a thirst for exploration, who found himself irresistibly drawn to these uncharted shores. He had heard whispers of secluded beaches, untouched by the hustle of everyday life, and was determined to uncover their secrets. Paul's journey through the dense vegetation had been long and arduous, but the sight that greeted him was worth every step. A pristine stretch of sand, flanked by towering cliffs and the endless expanse of the ocean, lay before him. The beach was a hidden oasis far from the prying eyes of civilization, a perfect escape from the chaos of the world. Paul dropped his backpack, feeling the soft sand beneath his feet, and breathed in the salty air, letting the serenity of the place wash over him. This was exactly what he had been searching for, a place where he could disconnect from the world and immerse himself in nature's embrace. The rhythmic sound of the waves lapping against the shore soothed his weary soul. As the day wore on, Paul explored the beach, marveling at its untouched beauty. The sun began its descent, casting a warm glow over the horizon. Paul decided to take a swim, eager to feel the cool embrace of the ocean. He knew the risks of swimming alone, especially in these remote waters, but the allure of the sea was too strong to resist. He waded into the water, the coolness refreshing against his sun-warmed skin. As he swam further from the shore, he felt a sense of freedom, as if the ocean were welcoming him into its vast, mysterious depths. The water was clear, and he could see the sandy bottom far below. Little did he know the calm surface concealed a lurking danger. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky with hues of pink and orange. Paul floated on his back, gazing up at the breathtaking colors, lost in the beauty of the moment. Suddenly, a strange sensation pricked at his senses. The water around him seemed to shift, a shadow passing beneath the surface. He brushed it off, attributing it to a trick of the light. But the feeling persisted, growing stronger with each passing second. Paul turned, scanning the water around him. His heart began to race as he caught sight of a dark shape gliding effortlessly beneath him. It was massive, moving with a grace that belied its size. Panic set in as he realized what it was: a great white shark, one of the ocean's most feared predators. Paul's mind raced, his instincts screaming at him to get to safety. He tried to remain calm, knowing that sudden movements could provoke the shark. He started to swim back towards the shore, his movements slow and deliberate. The shark circled him, its cold black eyes fixed on its target. Paul could feel the terror rising within him, each heartbeat echoing in his ears. The shore seemed impossibly far, the distance stretching out like an eternity. He could see the safety of the sand, but the predator was closing in. Paul swam harder, his muscles burning with effort. The shark's movements grew more aggressive, sensing its prey's desperation. With a sudden burst of speed, it charged. Paul felt a searing pain as the shark's teeth sank into his leg. He screamed, the sound lost to the vastness of the ocean. He thrashed, trying to free himself, but the shark's grip was unyielding. Blood clouded the water, a crimson plume that seemed to draw more predators. Paul fought with every ounce of strength he had, but it was a battle he couldn't win. The shark pulled him under, the water closing over his head. Paul's vision blurred, the world around him fading into darkness. He thought of his family, his friends, the dreams he had yet to fulfill. A profound sadness filled him as he realized this was the end. The ocean, once a place of peace and beauty, had become a merciless executioner. As the last of his strength ebbed away, Paul felt a strange sense of calm. The pain began to fade, replaced by a numbing cold. His thoughts drifted to the serenity of the beach, the warmth of the sun, the beauty of the sunset. In those final moments, he found a small measure of peace. The ocean returned to its tranquil state, the waves lapping gently against the shore. The beach, once a haven of solitude and beauty, now held the silent memory of a life lost. Paul's backpack lay abandoned on the sand, a poignant reminder of the journey that had led him to this fateful encounter. The following story is a true tragedy. Let's watch story number 3, where a school trip ended in a way no one could have anticipated. It was a warm, sunlit morning in late May, the kind of day that made you feel alive just by being outside. The Florida Keys were buzzing with excitement as high school seniors from across the state gathered for an annual tradition, a field trip to explore the marine wonders of the coral reefs. Among the eager students was Eric, a high school senior with a passion for adventure and a love for the ocean that ran deep in his veins. This trip was supposed to be a memorable capstone to his high school years, a chance to bond with friends and soak in the natural beauty before graduation. But no one knew that this day would become unforgettable for a far more harrowing reason. The students were split into groups, each set to participate in different activities. Eric's group was headed for a snorkeling excursion, a chance to swim among the vibrant marine life of the Keys. They listened attentively as the instructor briefed them on safety protocols, the types of fish they might encounter, and the importance of respecting the delicate coral ecosystem. Excitement buzzed in the air, and Eric's heart raced with anticipation. As they donned their snorkels and flippers, the students chattered excitedly, the energy palpable. Eric's best friend Jake nudged him playfully. "Bet you can't spot more fish than I can," Jake challenged, grinning widely. Eric laughed, shaking his head. "You're on," he replied, his competitive spirit ignited. The group waded into the water, the cool ocean lapping at their legs, and soon they were floating over the reef. The underwater world was breathtaking. Schools of colorful fish darted through the coral, and sea turtles glided gracefully by. Eric was mesmerized, every worry and thought slipping away as he lost himself in the beauty around him. Minutes turned into hours as the students explored, pointing out creatures to each other and marveling at the diversity of life. Eric's mind was so focused on the wonders below that he didn't notice the subtle change in the water's current, nor the dark shadow that passed silently beneath them. Suddenly, a scream pierced the serene underwater silence. Eric's head shot up, and he saw the group's instructor frantically waving everyone towards the shore. Confusion turned to fear as he saw the look of terror on the instructor's face. Then he saw it, a large, dark shape moving with alarming speed through the water, coming straight towards them. A shark. Panic erupted. Students splashed and thrashed, trying to swim back to the boat or the safety of the shore. Eric's heart pounded in his chest as he kicked his legs, pushing himself through the water as fast as he could. But the shark was fast. Too fast. Eric felt a sudden searing pain in his leg, unlike anything he'd ever experienced. He screamed, the sound muffled by the water, and looked down to see the shark's massive jaws clamped around his leg. The world seemed to blur, pain and fear overwhelming his senses. He struggled, kicking with his free leg, but the shark's grip was unyielding. Jake turned back, his face a mask of horror. "Eric!" he shouted, but his voice seemed distant, almost unreal. Eric's vision started to tunnel, the edges growing dark. He felt the shark shake its head, the motion sending waves of agony through his body. He knew he had to fight, had to get free. But his strength was fading. With a desperate surge of adrenaline, Eric reached down, punching the shark's nose with all the force he could muster. The shark released him, and he kicked away, his leg a throbbing mass of pain. Jake was there, grabbing him under the arms, pulling him towards the shore. "Hold on, Eric, hold on!" Jake's voice was strained, frantic. The rest of the group had made it to safety, watching in horror as Jake and Eric struggled through the water. The instructor and a couple of other chaperones waded in to help, their faces pale with fear. They dragged Eric onto the beach, the water around him stained red. He gasped for breath, the pain overwhelming. Jake's face hovered above him, tears streaming down his cheeks. "You're gonna be okay, man, just hang in there," he said. But Eric could hear the fear in his voice. The world started to fade, the sounds around him growing distant. He could feel the warmth of the sun on his skin, the sand beneath him, and the taste of salt on his lips. He tried to hold on, to stay conscious, but it was like trying to grasp water. It slipped through his fingers no matter how hard he tried. The last thing Eric saw was the faces of his friends, their expressions a mix of terror and helplessness. He wanted to tell them it was okay, that he wasn't scared, but the words wouldn't come. Darkness closed in, and the pain began to fade, replaced by a strange cold numbness. His last thought was of the ocean, the beautiful, serene ocean that he had loved so much. And then there was nothing. The beach was silent except for the gentle lapping of the waves, the students huddled together, their faces etched with shock and grief. The instructors did their best to comfort them, but there were no words that could ease the pain of losing a friend in such a sudden, brutal way. The sun continued to shine, the ocean continued to roll, indifferent to the tragedy that had just unfolded. For the students of that high school, Eric's story would be told and retold, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life, the unpredictability of the world, and the courage it takes to face the unknown. Moving on to story number 4, we have the tale of a marine ecologist who believed she understood everything about the ocean, until something unexpected happened, leading to a real tragedy. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. It was a bright, sunny morning off the coast of the Galapagos Islands. The azure waters shimmered under the light, promising another day of discovery and wonder. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a renowned marine ecologist, was preparing for what she believed would be a routine research dive. She had dedicated her life to studying the rich marine biodiversity of these islands, and today was no different, or so she thought. Sarah had always been fascinated by the ocean. It was her sanctuary, her place of endless curiosity. She lived for the moments when she could descend into the deep blue, surrounded by the mysterious beauty of the underwater world. This day was no exception as she prepared to dive into one of the most diverse marine ecosystems on the planet. The team had set sail early that morning, the boat cutting through the calm waters with ease. The plan was simple: to collect data on the migratory patterns of the hammerhead sharks that frequented these waters. Sarah and her colleagues had been tracking a group of these majestic creatures for months, and today they hoped to gather crucial information to aid in their conservation efforts. With her wetsuit on and gear ready, Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the familiar mix of excitement and tranquility that diving always brought her. She double-checked her equipment, ensuring everything was in order. As she looked out over the water, a sense of calm washed over her. Little did she know this dive would be anything but routine. Descending into the water, Sarah felt the cool embrace of the ocean envelop her. The vibrant coral reefs came into view, teeming with life. Schools of colorful fish darted around, and the distant silhouette of a sea turtle glided gracefully through the water. It was a scene of serene beauty, a reminder of why she had chosen this path. Sarah swam deeper, her eyes scanning the surroundings for any sign of the hammerheads. She spotted a few in the distance, their unique flat heads making them unmistakable. She started to record their movements, her mind focused on the task at hand. But something felt different today. There was an unusual stillness in the water, a silence that was almost palpable. As she moved closer to the sharks, Sarah noticed a shadow moving swiftly in the periphery of her vision. Her heart skipped a beat. Sharks were a common sight in these waters, but this shadow was different. It was larger, more menacing. She turned slowly, her heart pounding in her chest, and there it was, a massive, aggressive shark unlike any she had ever encountered. The shark's eyes locked onto hers, and in that moment, Sarah knew she was in danger. It was a primal fear, an instinctual response to the apex predator before her. She remained as still as possible, hoping the shark would lose interest and swim away. But it didn't. Instead, it began to circle her, each pass bringing it closer. Sarah's mind raced. She knew that sudden movements could provoke an attack, but she also knew she couldn't stay there indefinitely. She needed to get back to the boat, to safety. Slowly, she started to back away, her eyes never leaving the shark. The distance between them and the surface felt like an eternity. Just as she thought she might have a chance, the shark lunged. It was a blur of motion, powerful and terrifying. Sarah reacted instinctively, pushing herself away with all her strength. The shark's jaws snapped shut inches from her leg, the force of its movement creating a shockwave that nearly knocked her off balance. She kicked hard, propelling herself towards the surface. Her lungs burned, her heart pounded, and her mind screamed for air. The shark was relentless, following her with a single-minded determination. It was a race against time, a battle for survival. Breaking the surface, Sarah gasped for breath, her eyes scanning for the boat. She saw it, a beacon of hope in the vast expanse of water. She waved frantically, shouting for help. The crew spotted her, their expressions shifting from curiosity to alarm as they realized the danger she was in. The boat roared to life, speeding towards her. Sarah swam with every ounce of strength she had left, the shark still on her tail. The distance closed painfully slowly, each second feeling like an eternity. She could see the outstretched hands of her colleagues, hear their shouts of encouragement and fear. Just as she reached the boat, the shark made one last lunge. Sarah felt a sharp, searing pain in her leg as its teeth grazed her. She screamed, but her hand found the edge of the boat. With a final surge of effort, she hauled herself out of the water, collapsing onto the deck as the crew pulled her to safety. The shark lingered for a moment, its dark eyes watching them before it finally swam away, disappearing into the depths. Sarah lay on the deck, her breath coming in ragged gasps, her leg throbbing with pain. She had survived, but the ordeal had left its mark. The team worked quickly, administering first aid and assessing her injuries. Sarah's leg was badly torn, but she was alive. The boat raced back to shore, the crew's faces a mix of relief and concern. As they reached land, an ambulance was waiting, ready to take her to the hospital. Sarah's mind swirled with emotions. Fear, relief, gratitude. She had come face to face with one of nature's most formidable predators and lived to tell the tale. It was a stark reminder of the power and unpredictability of the ocean, a place of both incredible beauty and terrifying danger. As she was loaded into the ambulance, Sarah looked out at the sea, feeling a profound respect for the waters that had both nurtured and nearly claimed her. Sarah survived the attack and returned with caution to the sea. Story number 5 is about a hiker who embarked on a trip and encountered the unexpected. While swimming alone in a secluded cove, he came face to face with a large shark underwater. It was a crisp autumn morning in 2020, along the rocky coastline of Maine, where the sea meets jagged cliffs and the horizon stretches endlessly. Rob, an avid hiker, had spent the early hours trekking through dense forests and along steep trails, reveling in the solitude and serenity that only nature could provide. The smell of pine trees and the distant call of seabirds were his companions as he navigated the rugged terrain. After hours of hiking, he arrived at a secluded cove, a hidden gem that he considered his personal oasis. The cove was a perfect crescent of calm water, shielded from the choppy waves by a ring of rocks. The sun had begun its ascent, casting a golden glow over the scene, making the water sparkle invitingly. Rob felt the sweat on his brow in the heat of his exertion, and the cool, clear water beckoned him. He stripped down to his swim trunks, eager to cool off after the strenuous hike. The beauty of the cove was mesmerizing, and Rob felt a profound sense of peace as he waded into the water, the chill providing immediate relief to his tired muscles. The water was refreshing, and Rob swam further out, enjoying the feeling of weightlessness and the gentle pull of the ocean. He floated on his back, staring up at the cloudless sky, feeling completely at ease. The world felt distant, and all his worries seemed to dissolve in the salt water. Little did he know, this tranquil setting was about to turn into a nightmare. As Rob swam, a shadow moved beneath him, unnoticed in his state of relaxation. The calm surface of the water hid the danger lurking below, Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his leg, like a vice clamping down with immense force. Panic surged through him as he realized what was happening. A shark had latched onto his leg, its teeth cutting into his flesh with terrifying precision. Rob's scream echoed across the cove, shattering the silence. He thrashed wildly, trying to free himself, but the shark's grip was unrelenting. The water around him turned red with his blood, and the pain was excruciating. His mind raced, filled with fear and disbelief. This couldn't be happening. He was just swimming, enjoying the peace of the ocean, and now he was fighting for his life. He kicked at the shark with his free leg, trying to hit its sensitive snout. For a moment, it seemed to work. The shark released its grip, and Rob frantically swam towards the shore, his leg burning with pain. He could see the rocks, his sanctuary, but the distance seemed insurmountable. He pushed himself harder, adrenaline fueling his desperate escape. But the shark wasn't done. It circled back, drawn by the blood in the water. Rob felt a second, more vicious attack as the shark bit into his other leg. The force pulled him under, and he struggled to break free. Every movement a battle against the powerful predator. The water was a blur of thrashing limbs and blood, the once peaceful cove now a scene of horror. Rob's strength began to wane. The fight was taking its toll, and he could feel his energy draining away. He thought of his family, his friends, and the life he loved. The pain was overwhelming, but the will to survive kept him fighting. He clawed at the water, trying to reach the surface, to breathe, to live. In a final act of desperation, he punched the shark's gills, hoping to cause enough pain to make it release him. Miraculously, the shark let go, and Rob surged upwards, breaking the surface and gasping for air. He could see the shore, so close yet so far. With every ounce of strength he had left, he swam, his vision blurring and his body screaming in agony. He reached the rocks and pulled himself up, collapsing onto the rough surface. He was bleeding profusely, his legs mangled by the shark's bites. The pain was unbearable, but he was alive. He looked back at the water, half expecting the shark to follow, but it was gone. The cove was eerily silent, the chaos of the attack replaced by the gentle lapping of waves. Rob lay on the rocks, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The sun was still shining, the world still turning. As he lay there, the pain and shock began to take their toll. His vision dimmed, and he felt himself slipping into unconsciousness. The last thing he saw was the endless blue sky, a stark contrast to the nightmare he had just endured. And then, everything went black. The rocky coastline of Maine had claimed another victim, and the cove, once a place of tranquility, would forever be marked by the tragedy that unfolded that fateful day. Now, let's continue with story number 6, which describes how a family's beach trip ended in tragedy. It was a warm summer morning in Florida, a day that promised endless fun and laughter. Families flocked to the beach, eager to soak up the sun and enjoy the ocean's refreshing embrace. Among them was the Thompson family, excited for their long-awaited vacation. The waves crashed softly, and the scent of salt water filled the air. Little did they know, this idyllic day would take a horrific turn. Max, a curious 6-year-old, was the heart of the Thompson family. His eyes sparkled with excitement as he dashed across the sand, his laughter mingling with the sound of the waves. His parents, Emily and David, set up their beach chairs and umbrellas, exchanging smiles as they watched their son play. They felt secure in this familiar setting, a beach they had visited countless times before. Max's fascination with the ocean was undeniable. He loved the way the water tickled his toes and the feeling of the wet sand beneath his feet. As the morning progressed, Emily and David became engrossed in their conversation, losing sight of their adventurous little boy. Max, driven by his insatiable curiosity, wandered closer to the water's edge. Emily watched Max with a fond smile, recalling how he had always been drawn to water ever since he was a baby. David's eyes twinkled with pride as they shared a moment of contentment, unaware of the lurking danger. The beach was bustling with activity. Children built sandcastles, teenagers played volleyball, and surfers caught waves in the distance. Amidst this chaos, Max's movements went unnoticed. He waded into the shallow water, giggling as the waves splashed around him. The water felt cool and inviting, and he took a few more steps, venturing deeper. As Max played, a sense of unease settled over the ocean. Beneath the surface, unseen and silent, a predator lurked. The crystal-clear waters hid the danger that was slowly approaching. The beach, once a sanctuary of joy, was about to become a scene of terror. Emily glanced up, searching for Max. Panic surged through her when she couldn't spot him. David's eyes scanned the beach, his heart pounding. They both stood, frantically looking around, their minds racing with worry. Max, oblivious to the growing alarm, was now waist-deep in the water. He splashed and played, unaware of the dark shadow gliding towards him. The shark, a massive great white, moved with predatory grace, its instincts honing in on the small, unsuspecting figure. A nearby beachgoer, Sarah, noticed Max alone in the water and felt a pang of concern. She had a son of the same age and knew how quickly things could go wrong. The fragility of life suddenly felt very real. Time seemed to slow as Emily and David's frantic search continued. Their calls for Max grew more desperate, their voices lost in the cacophony of beach sounds. The sun shone brightly, a stark contrast to the darkness looming beneath the waves. Max's laughter was abruptly silenced. The water around him churned violently as the shark struck. Panic erupted on the beach as bystanders screamed and pointed towards the commotion. Emily's heart shattered as she saw the horrifying scene unfold. David, driven by sheer terror, sprinted towards the water. The ocean, once a playground, had become a battleground. The shark's powerful jaws closed around Max, pulling him under. The water turned red, a macabre reminder of the predator's dominance. David reached the water's edge, but it was too late. The sight of his son's small body being dragged away was more than he could bear. Emily collapsed onto the sand, her screams piercing the air. Bystanders rushed to help, but there was nothing they could do. The shark disappeared into the depths, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. The beach, moments ago alive with joy, was now a scene of unimaginable sorrow. Sarah, the concerned beachgoer, watched in horror, clutching her own son tightly. It could have been him, she thought, tears streaming down her face. The fragility of life had never felt so real. The authorities were called, and the beach was cleared. Emily and David were inconsolable, their world shattered in an instant. The ocean, once a source of joy, had become a symbol of their greatest loss. Max's laughter, a sound that had filled their hearts with happiness, was now a haunting memory. Now, the next story is about Dr. Phil, who tragically took his final dive. It's the most terrifying story we've encountered so far. It was a crisp autumn morning in 2008, off the stunning coastal waters of California. The sea was alive with the gentle rhythm of waves, a serene yet powerful reminder of the untamed world beneath. This picturesque scene set the stage for a group of marine biologists on a mission to tag and study the elusive great white shark. Among them was Dr. Phil, a dedicated and passionate marine biologist whose life's work revolved around understanding these magnificent creatures. Dr. Phil, a seasoned researcher with an infectious enthusiasm for marine life, had spent years studying sharks. For him, the ocean wasn't just a place of work, it was a sanctuary, a realm of endless mysteries waiting to be unraveled. Today was no different. With the sun casting a golden hue over the horizon, he and his team set out on their research vessel, equipped with the latest tagging technology. The goal was simple: tag several great white sharks to track their movements and behaviors, contributing valuable data to conservation efforts. But what began as a routine expedition soon spiraled into a nightmare no one could have anticipated. Dr. Phil stood at the helm of the boat, his eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of dorsal fins. The anticipation in the air was palpable. Each member of the team knew the risks, but their dedication to science and the ocean drove them forward. They deployed the bait, hoping to attract the attention of a passing great white. Minutes turned into hours, and finally, the moment arrived. A massive shadow appeared beneath the surface, gliding with an eerie grace. A great white shark, easily over 15 feet long, emerged from the depths. The team sprang into action, their training taking over as they prepared the tagging equipment. Dr. Phil, with steady hands and a calm demeanor, approached the edge of the boat. The shark, majestic and intimidating, swam closer, drawn by the bait. Phil readied the tagging pole, his heart pounding in his chest. This was the culmination of months of preparation and countless hours of study. As the shark neared, Phil extended the pole, aiming for the dorsal fin. With a swift, practiced motion, he successfully attached the tag. The team erupted in cheers, their excitement filling the air. They had done it. The data they would collect from this shark could be groundbreaking. But their celebration was short-lived. The tagged shark, now aware of the intrusion, displayed a behavior they had rarely seen. Instead of retreating, it turned aggressive. In an instant, the shark charged at the boat, ramming it with incredible force. The vessel rocked violently, throwing the team off balance. Panic ensued. Dr. Phil shouted instructions, trying to keep everyone calm, but the shark's aggression was relentless. It circled the boat, its dorsal fin slicing through the water with terrifying speed. The team had never encountered a shark behaving this way. It was as if the tag had triggered something primal within the creature. In the chaos, one of the team members lost their footing and fell overboard. Dr. Phil's heart sank. Without hesitation, he grabbed a lifebuoy and leaped into the water. The cold shock of the ocean enveloped him as he swam towards his colleague. He reached the struggling researcher and secured the buoy around them, urging them to stay calm. But the shark was still there, a dark shadow beneath the surface. Phil could feel its presence, a menacing force lurking in the depths. He knew they had to get out of the water immediately. The team on the boat lowered a rope ladder, desperately trying to pull them back to safety. Just as Phil helped his colleague onto the ladder, he felt a sudden sharp tug on his leg. Pain shot through his body as he was yanked underwater. The world above dissolved into a blur of bubbles and darkness. The shark had him. Its powerful jaws clamped down, dragging him deeper into the abyss. Phil fought with every ounce of strength he had, kicking and struggling against the overwhelming force. His mind raced, a whirlwind of fear and determination. He couldn't give up. Not now. Not when so much was at stake, but the shark's grip was unrelenting. On the boat, the team watched in horror, helpless to intervene. They shouted Phil's name, their voices lost to the vastness of the ocean. Time seemed to stretch, each second an eternity as they waited, prayed for a miracle. Beneath the surface, Phil's vision began to blur. His lungs burned, desperate for air. He felt his strength waning, the cold darkness closing in around him. Images of his family, his friends, and the life he loved flashed before his eyes. He thought of the ocean, the very thing he had dedicated his life to protecting. And in that final moment, a strange sense of peace washed over him. He had lived his dream, even if it was ending in the jaws of one of its most formidable inhabitants. Back on the boat, the water finally stilled. The shark, sated or perhaps driven away by some unseen force, disappeared into the depths. The team pulled the rope ladder back up, their faces etched with sorrow and disbelief. Dr. Phil was gone, taken by the very creature he had sought to understand. The ocean, once a place of wonder and discovery, now seemed to echo with the loss of a brilliant mind and a brave soul. Dr. Phil's death was a stark reminder of the unpredictable and often perilous nature of the sea. His team, heartbroken but resolute, vowed to continue his work, to honor his legacy by shedding light on the mysteries of the deep. And so, the coastal waters of California, bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun, held within them a story of courage, tragedy, and an undying passion for the ocean. Thank you for watching these incredible stories from Shark Quests. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. We'll be uploading plenty of new content soon, so stay tuned for more exciting adventures.